Hi there friends, it's Evelyn here with the gorgeous Lyra and Lena coming to you from, yes, a really beautifully sunny garden. Wonderful. I'm going to soak up as much of this sun as I can before autumn really hits. Please friends, if you haven't done so already, hit that all important subscribe button. This week, it's time to finally cut into that gorgeous powder blue, super soft crepe from my wonderful friends at Minerva, which was featured on last week's Autumn Sewing Plans video. If you didn't catch it, I'll pop a card above. We're going to create some gorgeous vintage-inspired lounge or nightwear. So without further ado, come on, let's get to some sewing. After a cuppa, probably. What a beautiful day, girls, eh? For today's sewing, I am grabbing my copy of And Sew to Bed, and I'm going to create two of the featured projects, the bra top and the French knickers, which are also known as tab pants. So friends, let's begin by creating that bra top. Beginning by cutting out all of my pattern pieces, grabbing a trusty Crayola marker to trace around. As well as our gorgeous soft touch crepe blue fabric friends, I also grabbed a white cotton poplin to use as a lining fabric. All my pieces cut out, I also pinned my dart legs and went to grab some matching cotton, and apparently this colour is my favourite because I have two of the same exact colour. Who knew? Then the first sewing step, friends, was those darts. And then the centre front seam. Before the fronts and backs of that bra top are joined at the side seams. Then it was time to underline those strap pieces before getting to create those straps. Using a regular length straight stitch and a microtex needle on my machine, these fabrics were really quick and easy to sew. I also made sure to press in between steps because this really can make a difference to your final project, my friends. However, can you see an issue with this top? Because I was beginning to see, well, quite a big issue. Answers on a postcard, my friends. Grabbing my lingerie hardware, I got to constructing those straps. And this took me a little while to work out how the fastenings went into the straps. Sandwiching those beautiful finished straps in between both layers, it was time to join the lining and outer bra top layers together, leaving the outside edges of the top open to allow me to turn it, ironing those seam allowances to the inside for a beautiful, neat finish. And this is what the top is looking like now that I've turned it out the right way. So it's a real hack to iron in those seam allowances because I need to put buttons or buttonholes on here and then top stitch. That's a real hack to do that before you sew. Yes, these straps look so cute. Look at this. Really cute. As you can see though, I really do need to do some clipping and trimming of the seam allowances because it's not sitting quite right, do not leave that step, my friends. And also pressing is really important. Hello, Lyra. Hello. Hi, sweet girl. Hello. Aren't you just the prettiest thing? Here comes your sister. Whee! Big ol' madness. Hello. So, clipping those seam allowances is my next step before buttons and buttonholes. Hello, Luna. No, big snugs. Oh, hello. Oh, hi. Oh, mwah. The final steps to complete this bra top saw me top stitch all the way around the edge, which led me to this. Now friends, can you see the issue? Regardless of the issue, I carried on, my friends, till the end and added buttons and buttonholes. And then it was time to get onto those French knickers. And the first sewing steps for these, my friends, were centre back and centre front seams, and I'm using French seams throughout this piece, which firstly requires me to place pieces wrong sides together and stitch with a smaller 2/8 of an inch seam allowance before clipping and trimming those seam allowances, then turning the pieces right sides together and giving them a really good press before a second seam is stitched at 3/8 of an inch this time, enclosing the raw edge of the first seam. French seams are so tidy, my friends, and I highly recommend them for shearer fabrics or fabrics that might fray. I then repeated the same French seam process for the side seams before moving on to the button placket. Now friends, plackets are something I really do not do very often, so this took me a while to work out, but rest assured friends, work it out I did. All that was required to finish these French knickers were buttons and buttonholes, a hem which I did using bias tape, a technique that I also used to finish the waistline. But without further ado friends, here's the reveal. Okay friends, so here I am in my little sewing room and you can see some of the gorgeous fabrics I'm going to be creating with on the channel shortly, my friends. Now here are those gorgeous French knickers and I'll show you some real footage of them shortly. They were a little bit on the big side, so I'll let you know how I combated that conundrum, my friends, but that's why we pattern draft, because then we know that things are going to fit us, my friends, regardless of what pattern sizing tells us, because those experienced sewists out there, my friends, know that yes, bought patterns often don't fit. And here, my friends, on Betty is another reason why we pattern draft to our own measurements. Are you ready for this, my friends? Take a deep breath. Betty's turned to the dark side, firstly. It is spooky season after all, but look at the state of this bra top, my friends. What is that? So here we are. Here is the lesson for this week, my friends. Sometimes makes don't come out as planned, even if you've been sewing for over 3 decades. I'm not sure what is even happening here. This is created using the instructions, the seam allowances and everything. I mean, what is going on here? To be perfectly honest with you, my friends, look at the position of these darts. That is never going to give you any bust space. I mean, look, it's crazy. And then look at this. I mean, wait until you see the back, friends. Take a deep breath. Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. Now, when this happened, I tried it on. Yeah, there's no way I'm sharing those images or video with you, my friends, because it's indecent, let me just tell you. So I am not particularly heavily busted in general. I am for my figure because I have a difference of 5 to 6 inches between my underbust and my bust. Actually no, more than that. What am I saying? So my underbust is a 29 to a 30 and my full bust is 38. So actually it's, you know, for me, I have boobies, but in general terms, they're not huge boobies, if that makes any sense. I cannot fit my boobies in, well, boobies is making me laugh now. So I cannot fit even a slight bit of boobie into this. And this is the large. I cut the large. Now, this should only have fit a 38 bust. Betty is a 37 bust. So I'm not entirely sure where all this comes from. It's just really poorly drafted, friends. And in all honesty, I could tell that was going to be the case when I put the front piece together, because I could see there wasn't really any shaping from those darts. Yeah, so, but in the interests of this video and the interests of my own curiosity, I kept sewing and I kept going. The only change personally that I made was in creating these adjustable straps, but this strap length, I've had it adjusted to the same length as the pattern strap, so that's how it would have... Sorry friends, I just can't, like, honestly. Do you know, I even knew this was going to be the case and I still did buttons and buttonholes. Check me out. I am going to completely frog this. I'm going to take the straps off because the straps will work on a nightgown or a chemise. But do you know what, friends? My next project is going to be to draft a bra top like this, but I think I'm going to give it maybe a band at the bottom as well, so it's not quite as risque, because I want a top to go with those gorgeous French knickers. But yes, a slight unmitigated disaster. There is no way to mitigate this, my friends. Like, there's no way that I can adjust this to make it wearable. Honestly, if I put this on Betty properly, I'm just like, look, Betty has underboob. So yeah, and Betty is quite slight. She doesn't have as big a difference between her hips and her waist and her bust as I do. And it's even indecent on the lovely Betty. So you win some, you lose some. Even if you've been sewing for over 35 years, my friends, like I have, some things just turn out a little bit Pete Tong. Anyway, yes, so next up, friends, we're going to pattern draft one of these ourselves so that I can match those gorgeous French knickers, which I'll get some reveal footage for you now, my friends. Check it out. I just can't stop laughing about this. I mean, what even is that? I don't know, are your boobies supposed to be here rather than here? Do not recommend, 0 stars on TripAdvisor. To make the French knickers fit slightly better, friends, I simply pleated some of the excess like seen here before top stitching it in place. But in all honesty, these are still, well, they're still too big. You win some, you lose some. On a positive side, well, that button placket is looking stunning. Hello friends, there we go. Some successful sewing this week and some maybe not quite so successful, but it is really important to me to be really transparent and honest here on the Evelyn Adore channel, because sometimes your sewing just doesn't work out. And actually, to be perfectly honest with you, it's normally when you're not self-drafting patterns, and that's why I'm so incredibly passionate about pattern drafting to your own measurements. Still, my friends, those French knickers are rather gorgeous, so one of the next on the to-do list is going to be drafting a top that actually fits. But until next week, my friends, when I'll be cutting into that beautiful pale pink soft crepe, take care and stay safe, friends, and I'll see you next week for more vintage inspired sewing. Bye. You can see the roses in my eyeline. They're having another sort of, it's a third wind, it's not even a second wind, it's a third wind, and they're just beautiful and they smell incredible.